And when I discovered Tartaria, that for me became an obsession. It remains, in my opinion, the biggest conspiracy of them all to remove an entire empire and civilization from history is to me far more significant and far more important than did we land on the moon? What happened at 9/11? I think this is perhaps the biggest conspiracy that exists.
They built star cities, the impossible geometry that surrounds us. Look down from an airplane window, over Europe, over Asia, over the Americas. You'll see them. Perfect geometric stars carved into the earth, surrounded by water. Too precise to be natural, too massive to be accidents. They're everywhere, in 105 countries, over 1,700 documented sites. Some hidden in plain sight. The Statue of Liberty stands on one, others buried under cities, forgotten, repurposed, demolished. We call them star forts. Historians say they're military defenses from the 1500s, built to deflect cannonballs when gunpowder changed warfare. But look at the geometry, the precision, the global consistency. These don't look like bunkers. They look like circuit boards. The official story. The year is 1494. A French army invades Italy. They bring something new, mobile artillery, bronze cannons mounted on wheeled carriages. They roll up to medieval castles, thick walls, tall towers, built over centuries, and blast them to rubble in days. The Battle of Pisa, 1500. A combined French-Florentine army marches on the city, but Pisa has something different. Instead of tall stone walls, they've built low-angled earthen ramparts, shaped like a star. The cannons fire, the balls hit and bounce off. The earth absorbs the impact, the angles deflect the shots. The star shape eliminates blind spots. Every approach can be fired upon from multiple directions. Star forts work. Medieval castles become obsolete overnight. Then comes Vauban. Sébastien de Prestre de Vauban, 1633-1707, military engineer to Louis XIV. According to official history, this one man designed 165 fortifications, built or rebuilt them across France, along every border. Cities like Neuf-Brisach, built from scratch, perfect hexagon, bastions at every point, streets radiating from center, 27,000 tons of concrete for foundations, walls 20 meters high, 6 meters thick. All built with horse-drawn carts, shovels, wooden scaffolding. In a lifetime. The logistics are staggering. Palmanova, Italy, built 1593, 9-pointed star. Took 30 years to complete the first ring, required relocating entire populations. The Republic of Venice had to pardon prisoners and give them houses just to get people to live there. Fort Wood, New York, 11-pointed star, built 1808, 1811. 3 years to excavate millions of cubic feet of earth, shape it into perfect geometric points, line it with granite blocks quarried elsewhere, transported by ship, lifted into place by hand. Then, in 1886, they placed the Statue of Liberty on top, right in the center. The fort was already there. The statue came later. The geometry. Pause the military explanation. Look at something modern, a computer motherboard. Circuits etched in copper, capacitors arranged in geometric patterns, conductors branching out like the points of a star. Now look at Fort Bourtange, Netherlands, from above. The resemblance is exact. Central structure looks like a power source. Pointed bastions radiating outward look like conductors. Moats and water channels look like cooling systems or electrolyte baths. You're not looking at a defensive wall. You're looking at a component. 12 sites, UNESCO World Heritage, all Vauban fortifications, all within 50 kilometers of coastlines or major rivers, all incorporating massive water systems, moats, canals, flooding reservoirs. The official explanation, water for defense, flood the land during siege, slow the enemy. But water conducts electricity. Salt water is an electrolyte. If you wanted to build a battery, a massive capacitor, you'd need water to complete the circuit. Fort Manuel, Malta, star-shaped maritime fortress built directly into harbor, surrounded on all sides by seawater. Purpose, defense against naval attack, or direct connection to the most conductive medium on Earth, Citadel of Besançon, France. Built on a hill inside an oxbow bend of the river Doubs. Water wraps around 3 sides. The fortifications follow the water's curve exactly. Defensive advantage, or energy harvesting from flowing water? The frequency. Hans Jenny, Swiss physician, 1960s. He coins a term, cymatics, the study of visible sound. Jenny builds a tonoscope, a device that makes sound waves visible. He places sand on a metal plate. connects the plate to a speaker, plays specific frequencies. The sand moves, forms patterns, geometric patterns, low frequencies, simple shapes, circles, squares, higher frequencies, complex fractals, stars, mandalas, perfect symmetry. The 2 Hertz produces a 6-pointed star. 528 Hertz produces 8 points. 704 Dawn Hertz produces intricate geometric patterns that match Gothic rose windows. Change the frequency, the pattern changes. But the patterns aren't random chaos. They're ordered, repeatable, mathematical. Now look at Palmanova from above, 9-pointed perfect star. Then look at the somatic pattern for 639 Hertz. They match. Not similar, identical. The star forts aren't built to a geometric design, they're built to a frequency. Robert Hooke saw this in 1680. He ran a violin bow along a glass plate covered with flour. The flour arranged itself into nodal patterns, lines where vibration was minimal. Between the lines, areas of maximum movement. Ernst Chladni expanded on this 100 years later. He documented hundreds of patterns, different shapes formed by different frequencies on different materials. The patterns he documented match star fort designs from Italy, Netherlands, France, Japan, India, Brazil, the United States. How did builders in the 1500s, 1800s, separated by oceans, using different languages, come up with the same geometric patterns that emerge when you vibrate sand at specific frequencies? They didn't choose the shapes. The shapes chose themselves. The geometry is inherent to the frequency. The global grid, 1,700 documented. Star forts, 105 countries. Europe, densely packed. Netherlands has dozens. France has 165. Portugal, Spain, Italy, hundreds more. But then you find them in places that don't fit the narrative. Castle of Good Hope, South Africa. 1666, 1679. Dutch East India Company. Perfect star fortress. Built at the southern tip of Africa. Before the region was densely populated. Before there was anyone to defend against. Who were they defending from? Indigenous populations with spears and shields? You don't need a massive star fortress for that. Medieval castles would have worked fine, unless defense wasn't the point. Fortaleza de São José da Ponta Grossa, Brazil, built on Santa Catarina Island, 1740, 12-pointed star, in a region with no European enemies for thousands of miles. Fort Jefferson, Florida, 1846, 1875, hexagonal star fort on a remote island in the Gulf of Mexico. 16 million bricks, 6 massive bastions, built to control. What? There's nothing there. No city to protect, no strategic shipping lane. Just water, sand, and birds. The official explanation? Coastal defense. But defense against whom? The fort was never attacked, never even threatened. It was abandoned as militarily useless before it was completed. Unless it's not about defense, unless the location is the point. Ley lines, ancient energy pathways, mapped by Alfred Watkins in the 1920s. Lines connecting sacred sites, ancient monuments, churches built on pagan temples. Overlay a map of star forts with a map of ley line intersections. Fort Bortange, Netherlands, sits directly on the intersection of 2 ley lines. Ground-penetrating radar shows underground water channels running beneath the central parade ground. Natural springs, flowing water beneath a geometric structure. Palmanova, Italy, built on an ancient Roman road. But beneath the Roman road, archaeological surveys in the 1960s found older structures, pre-Roman, stone circles, possibly Etruscan or earlier. The fort was built on top of something already sacred. Neuf-Brisach, France, sits on the Rhine River, but not just anywhere on the Rhine, at a specific point where the river bends, where underground aquifers surface, where geomagnetic surveys show anomalous readings. These sites were already significant. The forts were built on top of something older. And here's what's rarely discussed. Many star forts have extensive underground systems, not just storage cellars, vast tunnel networks, some connecting multiple forts, some leading nowhere, dead ends sealed with stone. Fort de Sals, France, has over 2 kilometers of underground passages. Some tunnels extend beyond the fort's walls. Where do they go? The official maps don't show. Citadel of Besançon, underground galleries larger than the surface structures, 3 levels deep. Parts of it remain unexplored. Too dangerous, officials say. Too unstable. Why build more underground than above ground? What were the tunnels really for? Water flows through many of these tunnel systems, channels carved into bedrock. Not for drainage, the engineering is too precise. The water is directed, channeled, routed through specific passages. If you were building a network of energy collectors, you'd connect them underground. You'd use water as a conductor. You'd place them at geomagnetic nodes. You'd build on ancient sites where the Earth's energy was already known to be strong. That's exactly what the star forts do. The construction problem. Official narrative, Vauban designed 165 fortifications in 74 years. That's 2.2 forts per year. Every year, for his entire career. Let's be conservative. Assume half were renovations, adding star points to existing medieval castles. That's still 82 forts built from scratch. Neuf-Brisach alone required moving 6 million cubic feet of earth. No bulldozers, no excavators, just horses, carts, shovels, and human labor. At peak efficiency, a laborer could move 1 cubic yard of earth per day. That's 27 cubic feet. To move 6 million cubic feet would require 222 man days. Divide by 365 days, are 608 men working full-time for 1 year. Just to move the earth, before cutting stone, before quarrying granite, before building walls 20 meters high. And Neuf-Brisach is medium-sized. Vauban built these across France while Louis XIV was constantly at war. Labor was scarce. Resources were diverted to armies. Yet somehow, 165 fortifications appeared in 74 years. Either Vauban was superhuman, or he was renovating something that already existed. The demolition spree. 19th and 20th centuries. Industrial age, urban expansion. Cities grow, populations boom. Space is needed, and suddenly, star forts are demolished. Rapidly, systematically. Amsterdam, 22 bastions. Built 1613, 1625. Cost 11 million florins, more than the annual budget of the Dutch Republic. Demolished 1870s, 1880s. Reason, urban expansion. Vienna, Renaissance fortifications, massive star system. Protecting the city. Demolished 1857, 1865, replaced with the Ringstrasse, a circular boulevard. Berlin, fortress walls demolished 1867, 1870. Copenhagen, fortifications demolished 1870s. All within 30 years, all major European capitals, all claiming the same reason: cities need space. But here's what's strange. They demolished first and built later. Amsterdam tore down bastions, then left the land empty for years before building. Berlin destroyed fortifications, then debated what to do with the space. If space was urgent, why the gap? Unless the demolition was the point, unless they wanted these structures gone. Fort Wood survived because the Statue of Liberty was placed on top. It became symbolic, protected. But even then, the military wanted it demolished in the 1930s. The National Park Service had to fight to preserve it. Why would governments systematically destroy their own military infrastructure? Fortifications that cost millions to build that took decades to complete? Unless those fortifications were no longer military. Unless they served a different purpose. One that needed to be buried. The Tartaria question. There's a theory circulating online. Tartaria. An alleged global civilization that existed before the current historical record. Advanced, unified. Erased from history by catastrophe and cover-up. Star forts are central to the theory. The argument? These structures are too similar globally to have been built independently. They must represent a lost world civilization with advanced technology. Let's be clear, there's no evidence for a unified Tartarian empire. The theory conflates multiple cultures across vast time periods. But the question underneath is legitimate. Why do these structures look so similar? Fort Independence, Boston, 1833, 1851. Granite Star Fort, Castle of Good Hope, South Africa, 1666, 1679. Stone Star Fort, Goryokaku, Japan, 1857, 1866. Star Fort built after contact with the West. They adopted Western military design. Or did they? Because Goryokaku is a 5-pointed star. In cymatic frequency 432 hertz produces a 5-pointed star in sand. The same frequency ancient cultures considered sacred. The natural tuning of the universe. Maybe the forts aren't copying each other. Maybe they're all copying the same natural pattern. The geometry that emerges when Earth resonates at a specific frequency. You don't need a global empire. You need a global awareness of resonance. The Statue Connection. The Statue of Liberty. Dedicated 1886. Placed on Fort Wood, an 11-pointed star fort built 1808 to 1811. Official story. The fort was convenient. Already there. Government-owned land. Perfect foundation. But examine the details. Fort Wood was barely used after 1823. It sat largely abandoned for 60 years. When Bartholdi, the statue's designer, visited New York in 1871, Fort Wood was a disused military post. So why choose it? New York Harbor had other islands. Battery Park had more space. Ellis Island was being developed. Why place the statue, a gift symbolizing enlightenment, freedom, the new Colossus, on top of a star fortress? The statue's pedestal was designed by Richard Morris Hunt, 89 feet tall. Aligned so the statue faces southeast, greeting ships from the Atlantic, but the pedestal is built inside the fort. It doesn't replace the fort, it's added to it. The 11 points remain, visible from above, perfectly preserved. The statue's torch contains a copper flame covered in gold leaf. Copper conducts electricity. Gold is one of the best conductors known. The torch sits 305 feet above ground level, directly above the geometric center of an 11-pointed star surrounded by seawater. If you wanted to build an antenna, a conductor to receive or transmit electromagnetic energy, this is exactly how you design it. The Statue of Liberty functioned as a lighthouse from 1886-1902. But unlike normal lighthouses, it used electric arc lamps powered by on-site generators. It was the first electric lighthouse in the United States. Why generate electricity on site? The technology was expensive, maintenance was complex, oil lamps would have been simpler, cheaper, more reliable. Unless the electricity wasn't for the lights. Unless the lights were a cover for testing something else. Here's what's documented. In 1916, they redesigned the torch. Gutzon Borglum, who later carved Mount Rushmore, replaced much of the original copper with stained glass. Glass is an insulator. The redesign would have reduced the torch's conductivity. Why change it? Official reason: to make it glow better at night. But if the torch was functioning as an antenna, as a conductor, replacing copper with glass would shut it down. The 1916 modification came during World War I, right when governments were scrambling to understand and control radio transmission, wireless technology. Did they disable the torch because they discovered what it was doing? And there's more. In the 1980s, during restoration, workers found incised markings on Fort Wood's granite walls. The National Park Service documented them: geometric symbols, compass and square designs, stars, circles. The official explanation: believed to be Masonic symbols. Freemasonry incorporates sacred geometry, ancient building knowledge, esoteric understanding of proportion, angle, resonance. If Masons were involved in Fort Wood's construction, and the symbols suggest they were, they would have understood what they were building. Not just a fort, a geometric instrument. The healing grid theory. What was the energy for? Not light bulbs, not factories. The technology didn't exist yet. Some researchers suggest life force, chi, prana, organe, etheric energy. Wilhelm Reich, 1930s, 1950s, claimed to detect and measure organ energy, a universal life force that could be concentrated and directed. He built organe, accumulators, layered metal and organic materials in specific geometric configurations. His research showed that certain shapes, certain materials, certain arrangements could concentrate this energy. He documented effects on plant growth, on bacterial cultures, on human health. He built cloudbusters, arrays of metal tubes grounded in water that he claimed could influence weather patterns by manipulating organ energy in the atmosphere. The scientific establishment called him a fraud, a quack, delusional. In 1954, the FDA obtained a federal injunction against Reich. They ordered all his orgone accumulators destroyed, his books and research papers burned, not just banned, physically burned, by federal agents in the United States in the 1950s. Reich was arrested for contempt of court when he refused to stop his research. He died in federal prison in 1957, age 60, of heart failure. His crime? Studying energy that official science said didn't exist. But here's what's documented: agricultural yields. Throughout history, regions near star forts had unusually high crop production. The Po Valley in Italy, surrounded by star fortifications, became the breadbasket of Europe. The Netherlands, packed with star forts, transformed swampland into the most fertile farmland on the continent. They called it the Dutch agricultural miracle. France, under Louis XIV, when Vauban was building forts, experienced population boom. Life expectancy increased, famines decreased. Correlation doesn't equal causation. But it's worth asking, if star forts generated a field that enhanced plant growth, increased soil microbiome health, boosted human immune systems, would the historical record look any different? The same geometric patterns, the same water systems, the same materials Reich used in his accumulators: stone, metal, earth, water, arranged in precise geometric configurations. What if star forts were doing exactly what Reich claimed was possible? And what if that's why they were systematically demolished? And why Reich's research was systematically destroyed? The silence. Here's what's unsettling. Nobody talks about them. 1,000 to 700 massive structures, global presence, geometric perfection, built over 400 years. And they're barely mentioned in education. Most people don't know they exist. Fort J, Governor's Island, New York, five-pointed star fort, built 1794, 1806, sits in New York Harbor, visible from downtown Manhattan. How many New Yorkers know it's there? The fortifications of Vauban, UNESCO World Heritage Site, 12 protected locations, recognized as outstanding universal value, and most people have never heard of them. Why the silence? If they're just old military bases, why not celebrate them? Why not teach them in schools alongside castles and cathedrals, unless they represent questions we're not supposed to ask about lost technology, about resonance-based architecture, about whether our ancestors understood frequency and energy in ways we've forgotten? The unbearable question. Could humans in 1808, with no electricity, no engines, no computers, design and build Fort Wood? 11 perfect points. Geometric precision to within inches, foundations that have supported the Statue of Liberty for 138 years without settling, granite walls quarried elsewhere, shipped by sail, lifted without cranes. They did it. The fort exists. But how? And more importantly, why that shape? Not 8 points, not 12, 11, a prime number, difficult to construct, harder to fortify evenly, unless the number wasn't arbitrary, unless 11 points correspond to a specific frequency, a specific resonance pattern. Look at cymatic patterns again. Play 852 hertz through sand. You get an 11-pointed star. 852 hertz is called the frequency of spiritual order in ancient music theory. Did they build 11 points? Because 852 hertz was the frequency they wanted to resonate? We look at the past as primitive. Horse-drawn carts, no electricity, pre-industrial. But maybe they didn't need our technology because they had different technology. Maybe they understood resonance, frequency, sacred geometry. Maybe they could pull energy from the earth itself, not through wires and generators, but through stone and water and shape. And maybe when we demolished the forts, we didn't just destroy old buildings. We unplugged the grid. Look at the star fort nearest you. Google Maps, satellite view. Does it look like a fortress? Or does it look like a machine? Look at the moats, the angles, the precision. Ask yourself, what was this really for? If you're starting to see the pattern, the geometry connecting thousands of sites across continents, leave a comment. Tell us what you found, because the star forts are still there, silent, waiting. And maybe, just maybe, they're not as dead as we think. So if you like the video, don't forget to subscribe.